traits over and over again. And the women, men who've written about Spartan women use the word bold and fierce. You would not dare mess with these women. These women have weapons trained. They have knives. So you would not dare attack or molest a Spartan woman. The government is fascinating. What kind of government does Sparta evolve? They never came out of the Dark Ages. They keep their kings. In fact, they'll have two. They will maintain a monarchy as if they're in the Dark Ages here. Why have two kings? Well, so you don't have one bad king. That way we have two kings, so they both have to cooperate to make decisions. Also, you always have a spare. One king would go out with the army, the other king would stay in Sparta, so if a king dies, like Leonidas will die at Thermopylae, you have a spare king, one in reserve. The judicial branch, if the two kings are an executive branch, then the judicial branch is a group of 5 men. They're called ephors or ephors. And these 5 men, it's their job as a Supreme Court to watch over Sparta. Watch over society, watch over the traditions. Nothing is to change. The old way is the best way. They have, their job is to protect the old traditions. Make sure nothing changes, nothing happens in Sparta. In the legislative branch, you'll have 2 houses. The upper house, the leading house, is called the Council of Elders. These are men over 60. The ephors also are men over 60. So this is all the old men. If you've lived to be 60, then you could sit in these councils because you're not going to be fighting anymore. So these men are over 60. These men are over 60. And their job in this council, you can imagine these old men all missing various body parts, grumbling, and discussing a law if needed. So I'm guessing they didn't meet very often because you don't need to change much in Sparta. But if there is a decision that needs to be made, it'll be made by this council of elders, men over 60. They will discuss any needed law. I do want to mention the movie. If you watch the movie 300, there's a scene with the ephors when Leonidas goes to ask permission of this council here, and they're presented as like these evil inbred creatures. Again, we discussed the eugenics. They probably were not inbred. They probably did their breeding really well. But it does kind of show you the importance of the judicial branch, that a king just can't do anything. These ephors, it's their job to protect Sparta at all cost. And we'll get to Leonidas later, but Leonidas wants to leave Sparta, and they don't want him to leave. So the last branch of government, you had your assembly, your council of elders discussing possible law. And then the last part of government, if a law is thought up, it would come down to the assembly of equals. These are your 30-year-old experienced warriors, men over 30. They've all had military experience. They all have equal rights. They're all married and have children and have houses. And they simply vote yes or no. In other words, if we're going to do this, all the warriors have got to be on board. And there are reports of them voting not by raising their hand, but by beating on their shields. And basically, you probably had unanimous votes, yes or no. There probably wasn't a whole lot of 41-59 votes. It probably, they probably all unanimous. But they actually were not allowed to discuss it. They were not allowed to discuss this. Just simply, the elders would tell you what their thoughts were, and then you, as a group, would vote. And then once the decision is made, that's the law. If they go to war, you will give it 110%. If there's a law against umbrellas, you wouldn't dare carry an umbrella. So just absolute. But there is some democracy. There actually is a system of government there.